Hey there, everybody. I want to go over Project 2 for our web design class. In this project, we're going to be talking about more HTML5 coding syntax. We're going to be talking about hyperlink element. We're going to be talking about the image element, abbreviation element, and adding the copyright information. So you can have copyright at the bottom of your pages so that you can make sure that your content is up to date all the time. Now, we're going to be looking at this content as we go. You're going to be using some images. So these images here, you're going to want to download these images by right-clicking on them and saying save image as, and then I'm going to save it as a JPEG image, leave the name, and I'm going to put it in a project, in a folder. So I will make a folder called Project 2. I'm going to put it in there, and I'm going to save. I'm going to go to my home. I'm going to say save image as. It's going to go into my Project 2 folder, and I'm going to put those in there. So when I go to my downloads folder, I should see my Project 2, and in that I'll have these images. So I'll put all my images in there, and I will copy my Project 1 folder, my Project 1 home initial page. So let me bring up my Project 1. So when I go into my project, I'll have a Project 1 page here. I'm going to copy that. And this will be my starting point. I'll put that in my Project 2. And this will be my starting point when I begin to work on this project. I'm going to be modifying Project 1. I'm going to save Project 1 as Project 2. And so in Project 2, you're going to have 3 individual web pages. One that's going to be Project 1, one that's going to be Project 2, and one that's going to be called an HTML5 page, just as a simple generic name. But what we're going to do is we're going to put it together, and it's going to end up looking something like this. Now, when we look at a page like this is really basic stuff. This is just really focusing on the markup of the content. So we're going to take the text that we have right here, and we're going to take this text, and we're going to break it down into its core HTML elements. So we're going to tag it up. This is going to have an H1 tag. This is going to have an H2 tag. We're going to have something in paragraphs. We're going to have a list of items, an unordered list, meaning we're going to put certain items in an unordered list, a list with bullet points on it. And we're going to have our copyright information at the bottom. So we're going to take all of this content and we're going to then lay it out so that it ends up looking more like a real web page, more like something like this, where we have headers, H1, H2 headers, we have a series of lists, and we have a button like this. Well, what's going to be cool is that this button is actually going to be a link to those other web pages. So, for instance, when I go here and I hit the next button, I'm going to go to this page. Let me go out a little bit so you can kind of see the whole page. So here's the whole page. You can see we've got the header. We've got a H2 header, which is slightly smaller than the H1 header. We're going to have some paragraph information. We're going to have an unordered list here, meaning that they don't have numbers. It's not a numbered list. It's unordered. It's just a series of bullet points. We're going to have another header level here, paragraphs. We've got a link here, but these images become links. So they're actually going to link to a new page. Now these pages are basically identical because I just wanted you to get the basic idea. However, what's unique about it is that this image isn't coming from my folder. So what we're going to have is we're going to have a folder here, and everything that you need for your website or your web pages is usually kept in your folder. So you may have all your HTML pages. You may have your scripts that you might be writing. Now, obviously, we haven't gotten into any of that, but the point of it is that it all has to be together most of the time. So the pictures that I use are going to be inside this folder, and then I'm going to go back and reference that picture, and it's going to pull it in. If the pictures aren't in the folder, normally I can't find them. Now, however, what's awesome is that we can use either images within the folder itself, or I can use an image off the web, which means that instead of having the pictures locally and being relatively linked to them, meaning they're within that relative location, it can go off and find that image online. Now, I can go to my Google Images and I can find a picture, and that's what you're going to do. You're going to go out and find an image. So if I was to look at this code real quick, Control U, I would see that there's a photo out there that it's actually being sourced by a hyperlink. So if I went here, here's that picture. Now obviously it's a canned picture. It's the principle of the idea. So it's out on the web actually. It's not in my folder. If I go back and I look at, say, the links down at the bottom of my page, they're actually being referenced locally to my local machine. The path, as it shows up down here, is actually going into my Project 2 folders and going into the folders where that image is stored. And so that's a really, really, really important part. Also, the image itself, because it is a link, is wrapped within an anchor. Here's the end of the anchor, and here's the beginning of the anchor. So this is the reference, this is the link. It's going to link to Project 1, which is in that folder. It is using the image of the home button, and it's a GIF file, a GIF file, or a GIF file. I've always called it a GIF file. I have my title, which means that's what's going to pop up when I hover over it. And then the size of the image is 54 by 34. And I don't want to change those at all, because if I change these, I can't do it here because I'm not using an actual text editor. I'm just looking at the text. But if I distorted this, it would change that. I'm also using my copyright ASCII code for the copyright symbol. All of these things will be covered in the notes for the class. But I want you to see that when you are making this, you are basically starting from scratch, putting in our HTML5 doc type. We have our head region, we've got our title, we've got our meta areas. You need to put your names in the right spot. But the code is important in where you find those images. Those images need to be located within that folder with your HTML pages. Now, you could make another folder called images and put it in there, and then we could do all that. But for now, all you need to do is say, look, relative to this HTML document, this one, it's going to just look right within the same area. So it's looking at the same level, if you will. So if I had another folder and I call this images, this would be another, I'd have to go from here and then into that. So I would have to tell it how to do that. We'll talk about that at another time. For now, we're just looking relative inside the same exact level that the HTML document is in. So for now, I want you to understand those things. So you're taking this text, you're going to mark it all up. You're going to designate the parts of the page that needs to be where it is. And that's what the instructions are telling you to do. Mark the first level line of text in the body section as an H1 heading. We're using our H tags, H1 tags. Remember, you can always go to W3 Schools and you can look up, if you forget how you're working with this code, you can go to HTML, you can look at headings, and you can see the way you do it. An H1 heading looks something like this. I always go to the try it yourself because it shows it in context. You have your doc type, You've got your HTML without any of the English or any of that, but this isn't exactly how we're going to lay ours out. We're going to follow our Project 1 guidelines here. So as we go, we're going to be using our notes from the very beginning. Remember, we're going to build off of this when we start looking at our basic HTML format. This is kind of like the starting point of all of our code. So we're not changing all that much, but you need to have your head region content in place. You need to have your doc type and your English language designated in every web page that we're doing. As we go, we'll build up more information that needs to be up here, but at the very beginning, make sure that you are following this. So as we go, we're talking about our paragraphs, we're talking about our H1s, we're talking about our unordered lists, and our anchors. So reading these notes, understanding what you need to put into your images. So for instance, when you make an anchor, when you make an opening tag that's going to be the hyperlink, we want to have those hyperlinks have let me get to the right page. When you hover over it, an image is going to have a title that tells me what it is. So if I hover over something, they need to have, for instance, notice when I hover over the desktop image, it's going to say what it is. So make sure that when you are doing those things, you're adding in those little things, because that's what I'm going to be looking for. I'm going to be looking, did they put the title in? Did they have the alternative text? So if the image didn't show up, it would say, this is a computer on a desktop. This is what's going to pop up when I hover over something. But in the case of an image, if it doesn't show up, this is what would be shown on the screen. And so it's important for you to make sure that you are following all those things. So I just wanted to show you that as you go through, this second part can kind of get tricky if you don't understand that you've got to wrap your image. So here's my actual image. Wrap the image within an anchor, and then the anchor is wrapped in the paragraph. So there's that hierarchy: paragraph, anchor, image, because the image is the anchor and the anchor is in the paragraph. So those kinds of things need to be make sure you're doing and following it. All right, so basically, just to recap, you're going to have a page that has the HTML, basic HTML marked up. You're going to have your page 1 is going to look like this, which is going to reference your project 1. It's going to have an image down here that says go to the next page when you hover over it. Okay, when you click that, it's going to go to the page 2. Notice project 2 here. That project 2 is going to have your image, your markup. You're going to have a few links, just text links. You're going to have image links that go to another. Then when I click on this one, it's going to go to basically the same exact code, except you're going to reference a new image that is not within your folder, that is going to be an image you find online that's suitable for that page, that kind of fits that size, and you're going to reference that as an HTML. And then I can go back to my home page. So all of these work together to create just a basic series of images. All right, so that's the basics of Project 2, and good luck. If you have any questions, please let me know.